Hello everyone and welcome to my equity research presentation. Tonight we'll be entering Sanjay's realm. This is going to be a Micron stock analysis, and I'm going to be explaining to you why I believe MU will be a hold for maybe the next decade of my life. So in the United States of America, Micron is the only real player as far as an actual random access memory chip maker slash producer. They're headquarters in Boise, Idaho, as well as they have a fab out in Utah. So they have two fabs total. They do have RAM maker competitors, however, none of them are headquartered in the United States. Those would be SK Hynix and Samsung. Both of these are South Korean companies, and Samsung is actually opening up a fab in Texas, I believe, here very soon. However, you have to keep in mind, this is still going to be a South Korean company. So a lot of things as far as like the United States, like chip bills and like a lot of things like of that nature, those are going to affect these companies a lot different than how they might affect a company like Intel or Micron. So, you know, Micron, they do all things memory. They do random access memory, they do NAND, they work in the flash space. Now, if you don't know the difference between random access memory and NAND, I guess if I had to explain it, random access memory is more like memory dependent on like power source and like think of more like memory. Whereas NAND, you can think of more like storage or like solid state. You see, the thing is, NAND doesn't really need like a power source to like maintain its memory, whereas RAM, it kind of needs to have like those power sources. So RAM's a lot more for like short-term memory, if that makes sense. But both are incredibly important for computational. So some of Micron's core products I really want to point out to you guys here. We got LPD DR5. This is a DRAM chip. It's actually used in a lot of modern iPhones. You have to keep in mind that a lot of the modern iPhones, like the iPhone X and a lot of the other stuff, I don't know if they're at like 13, 14 or now. It's almost like annualized at this point with the iPhones. It's quite wild. Oh, you know, a lot of the tech breakdowns I've been seeing actually, these iPhones have been having Micron parts. So this LPD DR5 chip, keep this in mind. This is really interesting. And this type of DRAM actually recently upgraded from like a DR4 model. And it's the same thing with Micron Crucial over here. You see the Micron Crucial DDR5 32 gigabyte chip. This recently upgraded from a DDR4 technology. Now you have to keep in mind SK Hynix and Samsung, they're also using like DDR5 tech now, but I'm just pointing out, you know, this is a very exciting time in the RAM space because a new wave of technology that's a lot faster and a lot more fluid at its purpose just came through the pipeline. And then we also have a NAND chip down there. Again, that's more, you know, solid state type of memory, different kind of chip function. So, you know, we got a high quality brand here and a high quality reputation. It's regarded as industry leader. It has a it just works kind of product reputation to it. You know, as far as like a moat, there's high costs to get into this type of business. There's a lot of technology that it takes and a lot of know-how and a lot of good staff that you need to get into this business, as well as there's a huge IP barrier for entry to get into the RAM and NAND business. You have to keep in mind Micron has over 50,000 patents on its technology. Again, I have to mention 2 working fabs. Getting a working fab is not an easy feat. Fabs are very complex. It's a very complex facility that you need to set up if you want a working fab. You need to make sure the air is regulated a certain way. You have to have all different sorts of equipment and technology and people who know how to use and operate that technology. Micron also plans to open up a 3rd fab. All of its fabs are currently in the US, as I mentioned, and the 3rd one, they have plans of that being in the US as well. Micron has a budget and planning for spending about $150 billion in the industry research and development in the next decade. I don't know. I just don't believe a lot of companies have the resources to pledge that kind of like research and development spending to continue to be an industry leader. There's a huge moat here for this company. The industry outlook on the DRAM market is very interesting. You have to keep in mind Micron gets somewhere about 65% of its revenues, certainly a majority of its revenues from DRAM, with the other chunk mainly coming from NAND. But the DRAM market looks very strong. This market research report here has them at a CAGR of 9.2%. I did a lot of shopping around on just different market research reports. I've seen as low as like 3.5%. As high as like low double digits for like all these research report estimates. The key thing is though that the industry is growing, and that's what I love to see, and it makes a lot of sense as far as what I'm seeing in the world, because I'm seeing a lot of consumer electronics and things of this nature, automobiles, iPhones, a lot of data servers, computers, evolving computers with evolving computational power. I'm seeing a lot of things happening in the world where it does look like there's a lot of organic growth happening in this field. And just seeing these market research reports backing up the things that I'm seeing is definitely certainly reassuring. Now, something I did want to mention is that just the fact that this is growing is huge, because one thing I'm going to go into later is how I believe Micron is trading currently at a discount as far as the valuation, and just being kind of like an absurdly held low valuation. Micron really, they got the two core critical advantages. They have a valuation advantage and they have a market growth advantage. Those are huge. Both of those can produce massive alpha, and they both can synergize really well to produce massive alpha. So how essential is DRAM and RAM? Well, it's quite essential. I mean, think about iPhones, you think about computers, you think about automobiles, which we will cover here shortly. You think about data centers. Over here at the right, you have pictured the Micron 7450 SSD. Now this is low latency, runs around like 2 ms on the ping for the server. So like very low latency, pretty much suits all your data server needs and all the demanding data center workloads that could come up. It's a well-built chip for that. You think about PlayStation, you think about Xbox, you think about digital TV parts. All of these are known to have Micron chips in them. You think about other consumer electronics, and you think about the evolving AI and cloud space and how that's going to be more than likely dependent on technology that Micron uses in manufacturing. So as you can see here, automobile products, that's also a huge component of Micron's business. You just think about how electronics are becoming more of a critical component of the modern day automobile, as far as things like HUDs and interactive buttons and things of that nature. You need something that can produce like low bandwidth and that can run those high functionalities of the actual computational powers that the car needs inside of itself. For the driver and for the passengers. Yeah, Micron has a variety of products for these types of automobile manufacturers. And the thing I like to think about is how the EVs will need to use things like these. And EVs will need to continue to rely on industry leaders who make these types of products. As you can see here, Micron trades at a huge discount today. It has a normalized price to earnings of about 7.12. Now, the lowest it's ever traded at, as far as what I could tell from my research, was in November of 2018 when it had a price to earnings around 3.29. We're gonna look into the technical analysis a little bit and look at what happened in November of 2018 on the technical analysis. And we're gonna kind of like give that like a measurable floor on this stock. But from what I could tell, it appears to be trading very low today at a very sharp discount with the price to earnings of 7. As you can see here, a lot of really esteemed value investors are buying Micron stock and holding. You got here in the first image at the top of the right, you got Monish Pobrai pictured with Charlie Munger. That is the only United States stock he owns at this time. Monish Pobrai, you could look up on YouTube if you'd like Monish Pobrai Micron, and you could probably find a video, but essentially the gist of what his thesis was when he was asked about it is that every time someone buys a consumer electronic or something of that nature, there's kind of like a residual collected tax that goes to Micron because they have parts and all of these things. And Monish Pobrai was explaining how, as a shareholder of the company, I'm going to be the one who like collects that tax, and I'm collecting that tax over the years, over the decade, over the decades. However long I feel like I'd like to hold the company, however long I feel like it's maintaining an oligopoly status, however long I feel like it's maintaining its status as the only significant Western world DRAM or NAND chip maker. Another significant investor we got here is Li Lu. Li Lu from Himalaya Capital Management. Now you got Li Lu over here also pictured with Charlie Munger, also a very notable value investor. Li Lu has a very significant position in Micron. I think it is very quite interesting that he is also involved with this company. I would certainly go recommend checking out some videos on Li Lu and just kind of some of his philosophies around investing. I think it's quite interesting. He's certainly someone I took after a lot when I was starting. A little further down here, we got people like David Tepper, Guy Spear, Seth Klarman, certainly a lot of noticeable names on this list who are involved in involved in Micron Technology. All right, we're gonna go into the technical analysis. I'm gonna pull up my Webull very quickly, just to get a better look at what we got going on here. All right, so here we got the Micron technical analysis. This is a 5-year chart currently. I'm gonna tell you some of the things I'm seeing here. I wanted to point out November. So November of 2018, you see it got very low here. Around this time, it was trading around a price to earnings around 3. This would have been a very advantageous time to add to your position. I do want to mention how the company seems to very in stark be following this 200-day moving average. And as you can see here, even in recent months around June, it bounced quite handsomely off that 200-day moving average. So this company seems like it's wanting to go back into the uptrend very soon here. You can see this MACD cross is coming, and it certainly wants to go back into an uptrend right about now. Very nasty red candle today, bringing this down to below $60, but we'll see if it's able to hold this 5-year, maybe even longer trend of following the 200-day moving average. But I'm willing to say that this is certainly a floor for the stock. And you have to keep in mind, as it's made this gains since this time in late 2018, Micron as a company has fundamentally improved itself vastly as far as sales, products, you name it. As the years tick by, literally single years tick by, Micron is significantly improving itself as a company every single year. So yeah, I'm willing to certainly bet that this stock will not go below 28, even in you know, I don't know, it'd take quite the doomsday scenario to bring it below that, as far as my opinion. Now, I also want to point out how around $90, this is going to make a triple top pattern at some point, and that triple top is going to be nasty because it could reject the triple top. What we hope happens would be that it breaks through that resistance and that it starts closing really handsomely above like $98 or something like that. Micron closing above like $100 for like a few days in a row, that would be like huge. I remember around this time, late 2021, early 2022, I've been a holder of this company for a little over a year now, and I actually sold probably around like 20% of my position around that time because I saw that was the double top, and I was just like, this is so nasty. I do not want to risk holding this. Although I did believe, and I still do believe, that Micron has a lot of rationality how it could go higher, even beyond like $98 or something of that nature. Especially with a status as an oligopoly, like you really do have to consider what is the value of ownership of a company that literally owns the market essentially. So very interesting TA, but I would tell anyone in general, if I had to just throw around like some numbers, this is very attractive to me, anywhere below $60 right now, and it's very attractive to me to sell if it starts popping around like $95. That's where I'm just interested in taking profits, because that triple top pattern is going to be quite nasty. Maybe it just has like a crazy earnings report one day, immediately break through those resistances of like $98, $95, no problem. But yeah, like as you can see, like a lot of people have lost money on this stock just doing options and things of that nature. And we can even bring this back to the .com bubble, where people are also just going crazy wild, just trying to be irrational about how they're evaluating the stock and whatnot, and just sending it to like absurd levels. Now, if you owned shares back then, great, you sold Micron at 150 back in the year 2000 when it was nothing, absolutely nothing like the company it is today. Just something to think about, how, you gotta analyze like the company, look at the market cap, look at what you're paying for it, and then just like put a more holistic picture in that. Technical analysis, in my opinion, it should just complement your fundamental analysis. Anyone can, use the markets however they'd like to enrich their lives of that nature, but this is how I like to do it. I hope that makes sense. But yes, I love technical analysis. I think this really tells a great story here. And as I said, the stock is incredibly attractive to me. Anywhere below $60, around $90, I'm kind of interested in just kind of de-levering my position only slightly. I'm interested in ownership for the long term, absolutely, but that triple top pattern will be quite nasty. So yeah, just going back on fundamentals of why I think around $90 is a good time to start like taking profits. That's about a 50% gain from today. It's just a good time because, I believe Micron should be a $90 stock today. That's my intrinsic value for the stock. But I believe because of things like the cyclical growth in the RAM and NAND industry, as well as maybe like there is a slightly more value discovery to go. I believe 2023 onwards, I could certainly increase my IV quite higher. As you can see here, there's a lot of reasons to believe why Micron would be undervalued. And I would definitely encourage you to go beyond this video and explore other resources on Micron. Maybe even look at some like bearish cases, which I will go into here in a second. But like look at like someone who's like maybe like totally bearish, just get a variety of perspectives. But I guarantee you'd be pretty hard pressed to go to reliable sources, have them analyze Micron and not say it's not. So just some of the final noteworthy thoughts I really want to bring in. Very strong balance sheet to the company. The assets over liabilities is very well maintained. I believe this company has little to it quite literally could be no long-term debt. And as well as their current assets over liabilities is totally fine. This company has like very little like short-term debt, but like they have just like heaps of cash flow, and it's literally like only debt that you have to like literally benefit you. I don't know if that makes sense, but debt can be beneficial if you use it right. So and they appear to be using it right, if that makes sense, because they're not over levered at all. The income statements are very cyclical of this business. That creates a lot of stock and business volatility. As you saw in 2018, this thing took a sharp decline. That was likely a time where like chip sales, maybe like people who use chips for their products, maybe they were like stocked up on chips and they weren't collecting chips. Another thing I believe that happened within the oligopoly with SK and with Samsung is that maybe they mispriced. All three of them were kind of like mispricing their chips, maybe flooding the market. And I think what the three of them are doing a lot better job of nowadays is they've recognized that they are in kind of like an oligopoly status, and they're kind of like setting their chip price more to the standard so that they can collect the sales and whatnot that they need to really be a truly profitable and growing business. You got a very strong Glassdoor rating, very strong CEO approval. The people appear to love Sanjay, that this truly is Sanjay's realm here at Micron. Something I did see when I was just kind of perusing some of the employee reviews was that there were some Glassdoor employees noting that they were losing top talent to other semiconductor companies and whatnot. They were noting that some of the top talent would come in, you know, great resume, ready to go, really bring the energy to the team, really actually contribute or whatever. And then sometimes use Micron kind of as like a stepping stone to like a different company. Now, this is certainly interesting, and I'd like to certainly see if Micron could kind of change that. But then again, it's hard to really tell what are your high value employees. You know, that kind of is more of a management decision. And Micron, for all we know, could like be doing things that for a reason. Like sometimes it might not be worth giving this employee the raise because they know they have this other guy who could do that job. So if they lose that talent, it's kind of like a c'est la vie, life goes on kind of thing. I'm not certain, but I did want to just make a note of that you know, as far as an employer kind of perspective, Micron might be viewed as in a certain way. A lot of the potential of Micron revolves around being kind of like a moaty oligopoly. As I said, there's a lot of reason to believe why they have a moat between how complex fabs are, some of the technology is, technological patent, generalized costs and research and development costs, and then as well as the status of the oligopoly. You know, Micron really is the only Western world who's doing like RAM chips in mass and, you know, actually producing the chips. So, you know, as far as that oligopoly, if something were to change there, that might be a time where I start to average out of my position, because then the fundamentals of the business and the investment thesis have changed. But things look very strong, and they look like they could continue to be strong for like a decade or more. And I'm very excited to see where this stock might go. As well as I'm very excited to continue to keep buying into some of this volatility I've been seeing on the business. As long as things continue to look good. For Micron, from a fundamental perspective, buying into the 7 PE, I'm pretty thrilled doing that. And I'd be thrilled to buy it at a 6 PE if it wants to continue to just PE condense and the business fundamentals continue to improve. If that continues to happen due to market irrationality, so be it. I'm gonna be there with some cash ready to acquire more shares for the long-term perspective. So yeah, I as a young man look at this, I'm very excited. It's certainly a company where they have a lot of reasons to believe why they're going to stick around, why they're going to continue to be successful. The cash flows look amazing. So yeah, I am the Zoomer Value Investor. This has been my equity research presentation. I do many more of these. I will do many more of these, and I have done many more of these. So appreciate you for watching. Thank you. Take care.